I'm going to tell you a true story about somebody who came to me to coach him to a sub 3 hour marathon. He was already running 3 hours and 3 minutes. That was his personal best for the marathon. He wanted me to help him gain 3 minutes or more and run a sub 3 hour marathon. I'm going to tell you about how we talked about mindset, about visualization, and about setting goals and what he actually did and where he is now. But before I do that, just want you to ask yourself, do you feel as if you set your goals high enough? Do you feel as if maybe you set goals that are limiting in terms of you set the bar low so that it's something safe that you can achieve? It's probable, unless you're in the minority, it's probable that you're actually setting the bar too low because you're scared of failing. It's as simple as that, and it's natural because it's a survival instinct. We don't want to aim too far. We don't want literally, when we moved out of Africa as humans, we don't want to try to travel too far on not enough water, etc., 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 because we may not make it. We may not literally survive. And the people that did go for it were the risk takers that actually did it. And it's the same today with world record holders. If you ask Usain Bolt, if you go back and ask Usain Bolt, what are you going to run for the 100 meters? He would have probably told you around about the world record, 9.59, yeah? People would have thought he was the reactions he would have got, that he was probably crazy, especially young as his younger self. He was crazy to aim that high. But if people don't do that, it's like the 4-minute mile barrier. As soon as Roger Bannister hit that, there was something like 80 people in a year or 2 years' time that ran less than 4 hours less than 4 minutes for the marathon. Once that barrier, psychological barrier, is passed, the floodgates open, and it's exactly the same for your personal barrier. Once you start to set the bar a bit higher and aim higher, you'll realize that you're capable of so much more. So much more. It's mind-blowing. And I did this from literally, I was in recruitment career and I went cycle touring in Asia. And I promised myself when I was cycle touring, because I got this feeling that although I was in a good career, I really enjoyed my job, I wasn't doing something that I felt had massive purpose. And I really wanted to go back to what I was good at school and try to become a professional runner. So I promised myself, whilst I was cycle touring in 2009, promised myself that I'd get back to my base. I was cycle touring in Southeast Asia, and I'd start running and I'd follow a plan. I'd get faster and see where I go. And I literally went out for my first run, mispaced it, got it all wrong, thought I was going out for an hour run because I'd built up all the cycling fitness, and didn't last more than 400 meters. Walked back to my house and was like, could not have been more motivated. I'd started something, I'd failed, but I knew in my heart of hearts that one day I could be a professional runner if I looked at all the different areas in terms of diet, in terms of my weight, my power to weight, the strength training I was doing, making that specific towards running, the speed sessions I was going to do. And I was Googling like crazy. I was finding all the sessions on off the shelf runners world plans and stuff like that to try and run my fastest 5K, to run my fastest 10K. Then I was going to move on to the marathon. Then I realized that ultra marathon running was for me, but I'd still try to run my fastest marathon. I had it in me that I just wanted to. This was the start of 2010. I was going to be a professional runner, and people laughed at me because the goal was too high. It was not reasonable for me to think that way. But within 3 years, I became a professional runner. It was just that simple. 3.5 years it took me to become a professional runner, from starting running on the 3rd of January 2010. So when people come to me for coaching advice, and it's often around the marathon, and it's often around people who have got a full-time job, it's a high-pressure job, they're in a corporate environment, and they want to run a marathon because they want to achieve a fitness goal in their life. And so when this guy came to me, he's a friend now, and I think he has a brilliant personality. He's an IT guy, a tech guy, and so he's very, very methodical. So when we were talking about things, he methodically thought that naturally the next barrier for him was a sub 3 hour marathon. My thought was, you've already ran a 3:03 marathon. which means if the wind was a little bit more in your favor on race day, you would have ran 1.5% faster or 1% faster, whatever it is. It's like literally 1% or something. You would have ran 1% faster if the wind was in your favor. So you've already ran, for me, you've already ran a sub 3 hour marathon. We just aim for whole numbers because it's more, because it's easier for us to think in terms of round numbers, and we get that badge that you've ran a sub 2:30, or you've ran a sub 3 hour marathon, or you've run a sub 4 hour marathon. We get that badge and we think that's kind of, it's an extrinsic motivation, but it means something to a lot of us. My thinking was, you've already run a 3:03, you're capable of running a 3 hour marathon. We need to look at every part of your game the same way that I did, and we need to move you forward in every way. And the chances are that once we look at your strength game, and this is exactly what happened. Once we looked at his strength game and we got him to specifically lift on 2 days of a week, and we put those on the right days, so not around heavy sessions, the interval session and the long run, but on easy recovery days where he could get that strength, he could build strength in his glutes, his hamstrings, and get fast feet, and build a more injury-proof, robust body so that he wouldn't get injured as much, he wouldn't have niggles as much, and so the progress curve would be better. And then we said, let's not set a target for the time being. Let's keep it open and look at your training along the way. We'll put a half marathon in there 5 weeks before the marathon that you're going to run, and we'll see where you're at, yeah? And we've got access to so much information now. You can see what the blood is doing during your runs. If you do an interval session and you get that done in a lab situation, or you get a lactate threshold machine, you can see what the blood is doing, how lactic acid is building up in your blood as you're running at different paces. So you can estimate your times, especially if you're very well trained, you can estimate your times really, really accurately. So we put all that in. We put the strength work, we put the speed work. He was doing speed work for the first time. There were so many areas of his game that he could improve by 10% or 20%, which exponentially, when we looked at the 8 different areas it probably is, including diet, sleep. He had 2 children, so immediately it was like, when do you run? End of the day. How many times do you miss a run? I probably run, of every 5 runs that I tried to do, I miss 1. 20% of the runs he wasn't doing because he had children, and he had school run, he had a business to run, he had a lot of work to do. And so once we kind of put the run at the start of the day, and that was the priority, it made him not only better at running and faster, and made him faster in the interval sessions, and it made him stronger for the long run. It also made him more productive in his work, because he'd already got his passion done first thing in the morning. He already got that drug, which made him high for the rest of the day. Became more productive, more creative, a better colleague, and also a better husband and a better father, if he's really, really honest. And so over the weeks, we looked at these different areas. We saw that strength being gained, the stride length. We looked at the biomechanics and the stride length and the metrics that you get from Garmin Connect now. And we looked at the stride length, we looked at the speeds that he was running for 400 meters, 600 meters, 1,000 meters, a mile, those interval sessions for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and he blew himself away on race day. And he ran a 2 hour 30, we decided to go for 2 hour 40, sub 2 hour 40 marathon, and he ran a 2 hour 38 marathon. Now it was insane for him to think, I've just ran a 25-minute PB, and I was already running a 3:03 marathon. It wasn't strange for me. I thought he was, I thought at the time he was capable of even more. I thought we were staying safe by just going for a 2 hour 40 marathon or less. And he blew, and you know, I'm just a coach. Like, he did the work, and he put in the work. He was disciplined, he was resilient, and he made it happen on race day. And you know, massive kudos. But what that put him onto was a platform where he's now a 2:38 marathon runner, and he's now realized that he's just run a 25-minute PB, so he's just tapping into his true potential. What he was doing before was running safe. So now, instead of saying, okay, well, the natural next step is to run a 2:35 marathon or a 2:30 marathon, a sub 2:30 marathon, starts to get very, very serious as a runner. Now he's thinking more along the lines of, I've got to be aiming for 2:24, 2:25. And so to change that mindset and to just blast away that limiting belief, it's so powerful. Please do it. Just aim higher, because the chances are 9 out of 10 times you're aiming too low. Oh, by the way, please like and subscribe if you've got any alpha or whatever you say from this. It's really important. It helps the algorithm. I keep getting asked to ask you to subscribe. So if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. And I probably said this too late in the video, but I'm trying to get better at that 1%. And video making is a bit like my marathon running, trying to get better and better, incrementally better, and work on different parts of the game. Hence the microphone, and hence there's no, extinguisher on the wall anymore. So there you go. I'm improving.